Super. All right. Hello, everyone. I hope someone is listening us, and I hope there is someone behind the screens. I am with a very special group of guests from the group of Netherlands Coding Live, and two international guests from Sussex University. We are today together to talk about interactivity. What a nice theme for such a difficult time that we are living on. And I'm sure all of us have amazing stories to share. So feel free to text us in this YouTube link that you are watching us tonight. My name is Rafa. I don't know if I said that, but here am I, and I will be your guest, and we are going to be guiding you. We're gonna have some Q&A later on with all the artists that are involved in this concert. And our program starts with Joana and Renick with the performance Circle and a Half, círculo e meio. And maybe we're gonna first stream, and after that we're gonna have a short talk with Joana. She's available, she's online with me right now. And Renick is in Tokyo, so it's quite difficult to find a right time zone to talk with him. So tonight is going to be just Joana. Feel free to ask some questions at the end. We're going to have a look into it. And yeah, enjoy this performance.
Inclusion and exclusion. Inclusion and expanding the void. My dancing before balancing on the edge, balancing on balance, inclusion and exclusion. If expand in before the bind, in the centering. Expand before inside expanding the void. I dreamed that I was balancing in the centering. I dreamed that I was before the binary. If expand in before inclusion and in the centering. Expand before inside expanding the void before balancing on the edge, balancing on balance before the binary. If expand in before expanding the void. Inclusion and exclusion. Inclusion and exclusion. In my dancing. Before the before inside expanding the void before inside I dream dissolving the us inside outside inclusion I dream that I inclusion and exclusion I dream that I'm inside out I dream that in this I dreamed that I was balancing. I dreamed that I was balancing. I dreamed that I was the edges of the limit inside outside, expanding the void. I was balancing from orbit to expanding the void. What if it takes sense in the insects? I was balancing from orbit to the edges of the limit. I dreamed that. I dreamed that I was balancing. I dreamed that I was balancing. I dreamed the edges of the limit. What if it takes sense in expanding the void? What if it takes sense in this? I dreamed that I was balancing. I dreamed that I was balancing. I dreamed dissolving the us, or rather, in my dancing. Dissolving in my dancing, in my expanding the dissolving balance, dissolving in my dancing void. It seemed that I could have, it seemed that I dreamed a circuit. Circulation of cyclical I center my center of balance. Vicious my center of balance. Woke, vicious, woke up, balance, my center balance, my silence, cut the circuit. Turn vocab sobre a forma de uma turn é turn like press. Turn vocab sobre a forma de uma sábado, esfera pública, os limites, e se fosse preciso sentir liberar, sábado, isso, e se fosse preciso sentir balançar de sábado, os limites, esfera pública, esfera as margens dos limites, da minha dança. acordei. Não sei se
Give me a sign when we are ready to talk. All right, here we are back. My name is Rafaele, and if you're dropping by in the late, some late time, this was our performance of the concert from Netherlands Coding Live, supported by Instrument Inventors initiative. And now, tonight, we have our special guest, Joana Chicau. She's in the moment in London. And wow, what a crazy performance. I feel very dizzy. And I had so much questions written down, but now I have even more. So wow, there's so much things to talk about. And also because I saw this performance of Thinking Warm 2 years ago. And it's funny because most composers or sound artists, programmers, artists in general, they usually they like to put a piece in a drawer and leave it there, forget about it, and yeah, let's see what the world wants with it. But you decided to bring it back and simulate it to see what can you get from it, from that more. What was your decision about taking again this piece in?
Hey, hi, good evening, everyone. So yeah, I'm here tonight representing the project Geometries, actually choreographies of the circle and other geometries. So yeah, I'm speaking also on behalf of Renick, who, because of the huge time zone difference, can't be here this evening. So thank you so much, Rafa, for the invitation. Thank you, III, for hosting this amazing series of events, and the Netherlands Coding Live community, and everyone watching the live stream. It's really nice to be connected in these weird times.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, going to so this is, I guess so when we started this project, we did think, okay, we're gonna connect our systems and think of a way to perform together. But then actually we engaged in around actually what does it mean to compose together? What does it mean to dive into language? Also, I think one of the reasons why that was sort of a natural discussion is because we are used to quite different systems. I basically use JavaScript on the web browser to, change the visuals, and often I'm just setting apart something that already exists, like going to Google search and then changing the environment and etc. So it's a bit more of a tournament, or yeah, I think it's a lot of live coders start with a blank canvas, or start building up their code. I quite often start the other way around. I have already a quite busy interface, and then I start changing it. And yeah, so I think a lot of my work was also about thinking how I would name those functions. So what does it mean when I set certain actions that then influence the visuals? And so then when I partnered with Renick, it was also, we had to find sort of a common vocabulary, because he obviously also had his own system called Conductive. He was writing in Haskell, and he also had his own method. So it became quite interesting to see how quite dissimilar modes of working, at least in the tools we use, how it became so precious to talk about it and to see, okay, and also like in general, I think the live coding community seems to be pretty active in talking about what actually our codes mean, and what stories do they tell. So I think the departing point was that one, and then suddenly from one performance we already have like an installation that we've done. We've been doing workshops, and so I guess, yeah, these performances is also another iteration of our code. So I guess it just keeps on evolving, and sometimes they are quite little steps, but they mean a lot. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's great to share.
it's very important to test and try it again and again and again until you find that means so much to you. And I think everyone here experienced so much synapses of so much material to work on. Actually, just the word circle brings so much material. You as a dancer, and you involved your practice, your artistic practice with your artworks. I was wondering how would you I mean, I guess this is actually your research question or research life question. How do you feel, how does body can have an interpretation digitally? Does you feel that this question is related to this artwork somehow?
Yeah, so it's true that I have a background in dance, and I think a lot of how I see the world is through movement, how things come together through movement. So that's pretty essential. And actually, oftentimes what it doesn't come across photography is actually about writing movement. So it's highly tied to language. It's also another composition making tool. So for me, it feels quite natural to connect choreography with coding and live coding as well, because then there's the aspect of performance tied to the notion of choreography and the world of dance. So I think that's certainly a very present sort of field and mode of expression even in the visuals that I do. And it's curious that you're talking about the circle, because it's very obvious that there is a
Yeah,
theme in the
there is already
piece.
a movement when you think circle. It's
Exactly.
movement.
Exactly. And actually that was our starting point, was thinking, okay, because we started reading about different strategies about composition making and how people come together, but also especially coming from also not like a feminist background, and thinking, okay, how certain constructs help more democratic engagement and different levels of participation, etc. And I think it was there that we started looking at these formations. And from the circle, we also were curious about other geometric formations. And this is kind of how the theme starts developing, and how we got trapped in these sort of geometrical constructs, and how to deal with it. And we actually, maybe it's a good moment to share our website, because we have been gathering our research and making it accessible. So maybe if you want, we can have a sneak peek at
Sure.
our
Yeah, of course. I
website.
think it's super nice to show around.
Okay.
I probably, or tech guy, Timo is sharing with us the screen right now, and with you guys. Meanwhile, if you want to drop any questions at the chat, I will be reading. But feel free, Joanna, to introduce a bit the website.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Awesome. So I'll guide you. So I'm gonna also paste the same link onto the YouTube chat, and just in case you want to look at it earlier in more detail. And so we keep a few information around our performances, recent artwork we've launched, workshops we've done, and the research log. And I think here is where you can see, among other things, a link to our source code. So we try to keep it or update it as things go along, and also hopefully soon we can package it in a way that's also more comprehensive to others to use as well. But it's a work in progress, so it's not an easy process. And one thing that I also wanted to share now is this sort of story where basically we try to share a lot of the conversations we've been having and the references we've been collecting. And yeah, so we were quite curious about the different manifestations around scores and the making of different sorts of composition around in the world of performing art. And and also historically, what are the implications of these sort of formations, and what do to the way we the way we share spaces together. I think some images are not loading. I'll check out what might be the problem. I think I hear the fans of my computer. I think my everything is a bit overloaded at the moment, but you can probably take a look at it later again. And yeah, so here you
Maybe
can
you can
see
post
some.
the link in the chat later for people to.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I've done that. So maybe it's just easier for everyone to come back, but basically these are some of the inspirations. And I think most importantly, what we look for are more than anything else are questions that trigger a lot of our thinking. And I think so some of the snippets of code you see come from Simon Forti, for example, one famous character from very active in the 60s for postmodern dance, and snippets of thoughts from all these references we've been collecting, and also some writings of mine. And yeah, then we basically look into those ways of phrasing movement, both to inspire our visual sound, but as a way to, for example, trigger some of the things that are shown as queries in the web you see in the performance. So yeah, it's like dissecting a lot of these things into different sources and pulling them together. And there's a lot of chance as well. There's also a lot of glitches and other things happening on the way. Quite often, I feel like there are good surprises. I like that
Wow,
aspect
so
of
nice.
things being unexpected. Yeah.
What I really like it is it's so what is so special about that is that dance usually there is so much story about trying to make it some kind of like language out of it so that you could teach for future generations, and it seems like this work is like it's talking about that exactly, like we want to communicate, we want to find a language through and pass through for future generations what all the symbols means with it. But um well, I think we have to run for the next performance. The worst thing about
Sounds good.
being the presenter is that you have to always stop nice conversations. So I thank you so much, Joana, for your presentation, your artwork, and yeah, if you can share the links with us in the chat, would be very nice. The next performance. Oh, and of course, say thanks so much for Renick. I will say myself, but he has probably to know from you as well. It was really great to have you both doing this performance. So the second performance of tonight is from uh, Jonathan Reus, with name Being Material. Jonathan has been actually last year the producer of the series from III, and we switched roles. Uh, so he's tonight's performer, and I am his curator. And so I think he's getting ready for his performance. I'm not sure because I don't see him here, but hopefully he's coming in any moment. So enjoy his performance, and we have later to talk about his piece. All right, here is me again. We were supposed to run Jonathan's performance, but he needs a couple of minutes more to connect some cables. Um, and now, then, who is going to perform? Actually, it's the last performance of the program. Alice and Chris. They are our international guests from the Sussex University. Alice, she's one of the teachers and heads of the humanities lab. And Chris, he's part of the music department of Sussex. They have a very nice performance about cello feedback. Um, and this is what we're going to listen now. Alice will be performing with her cello, and Chris will be in the laptop. And so enjoy your performance and let me know if you have questions, and yeah, if you want to drop any message in the chat. So, all right. So we are back, and thanks everyone for watching this news concerts of the series Netherlands Coding Live at Instrument Inventors. We just heard and watched the performance of Cello Feedback, Alice and Chris, and they are here at the Q&A room with me right now. Welcome, guys, from the Netherlands. So nice to have you here with your mondkapjes, your mouth masks, mouthpieces. I'm getting confused with Dutch. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Good.
Was it a nice experience for you?
We hadn't planned to do a techno set, but suddenly we started playing 90s acid techno.
Oh no. Well, I felt you did great, and I saw a lot of nice comments about the performance too. Actually, it's my my partner is here. I told him to not participate, and I was very curious always to talk with you. And it's so funny that we just find time when such a formal event like this. But I was so inspired always by your practice as a cello player. And it's so funny that you related the sense of fear in a music practice, because feedback is, I mean, everyone thinks, oh no, am I going to die or something? There's it's too loud. And how this idea came to involve a coding practice with a cello and fear and feedback.
And fear? I don't know
Yeah.
where fear comes from.
Yeah, I mean, like when you thinking feedback, in a lot of feedback, you imagine like the sound is very loud, and
Okay,
people already get, oh no, am I? They're already getting this state of
this
like,
nervousness. Yeah.
yes,
I think for me, because I grew up playing acoustic cello, so it was never. How is it doing an interview with a mask? Is it?
it's a great.
It's okay.
I love it. Looks like cowboys.
Yeah, for me, so it's not. I wasn't a singer or a guitar. I wasn't a singer or an instrument that worried about feedback on stage. So for me, it was never a fear. And then I think I spent a lot of time in my 30s playing with generative art, with kind of systems art, and a lot in that feedback was the main kind of generative tool, if you like. So I was playing a lot with like evolutionary art, evolutionary algorithms, and agent-based models and things. And in that, feedback is the source of creativity, if you like, the source of variation. And so I'd always been interested in it from a systems perspective. But actually, these came from Haldor Ulfarsson. We saw a video of Hildur playing the Haldorphone, and I just, like a child, I said, "Oh, I want one of those." And that's where this project. That's where this project came from, because Haldor is a friend of our friend Thor, and so he came to visit us, and we said, "Hey, why don't we do a project where we hack a cello, and make a cello into a feedback cello?" And so Chris and I and Haldor all made these first in 2016, and we've been exploring them ever since. So it was very much like a childish, oh, I want to play that.
Yes, and that's amazing, because then you discovered like it's supposed to be like this. You should enjoy, it's music's about having fun and enjoying what you're doing. What about you, Chris? You were behind the screens. I would love to hear, how was your experience there?
Yeah, so this is a new experiment for us, because usually we have a cello each, and but when I started playing the feedback cello, I live coded it, and so it's kind of a return to that, I guess. So we've got a kind of shared instrument here, that the feedback loop of the cello is going through SuperCloser on the laptop I was using, and I was live coding the processing and the feedback loop. And so the instrument that Alice was playing was kind of slowly changing, sometimes quickly changing, but mostly slowly changing over the course of our set. And so I guess we were both kind of trying to navigate I was trying to listen to her to see if what I'd done was making sense, and she was probably trying to figure out what I'd changed, and whether that was a good thing or not.
There's some fear. That's where fear comes. Oh no, what's he going to do? How's it going to change?
So it was
no, my friend's gonna change now. What are you gonna do?
So it's a shared instrument and a bit of an experiment, really.
Yeah, it was very much an experiment. We haven't really played with it in this way before, so I hope that's okay to use.
But that's the place of it.
Exactly.
This is the right place to try these things. So really nice. I love it. And let me see if there's some questions of the group here, of our group. Well, a lot of people said really cool, love it, lovely, was really nice, amazing. And yeah, I think I have so many questions, but I don't want to just invade with all my interest for cello and for music. But I would say like the most amazing thing is to relate a musical instrument, like the ability that you have making music with joints, like really with your movements, and to a digital practice. I found very very special in this also this performance, like since Joana.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things when we first started playing together, because we both do a lot of improvisation generally, and often there's a difference, isn't there? Often I've noticed if you're doing improv like on acoustic instruments and a laptop, say, there's often a problem of time, like laptops are sort of running a process. It's difficult to change as quickly always. So there was a nice, it became a kind of nice meeting point of the pure gestural kind of live practice and the generative coding practice. It came a point of like bringing those together. I think that's something we talked about a lot, wasn't it, to begin with?
Yeah, that's right.
So we very much think of it as this kind of hybrid practice that's controllable, but it's all about the resonance. It's all about the physically vibrating cello.
Yeah. I love the way that you can completely change a physical instrument with an algorithm inside the feedback loop in a really, really dramatic way, a profound way, really.
Yeah, it's so crazy that you can do so much changes for just small configurations. Well, I think unfortunately I have to stop this conversation. I would love just to grab a beer with you someday in Sussex.
We will do that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, we have definitely to do that. And well, you are welcome to stay to watch the next performances. But I will call now. I think Jonathan is ready, and we are going to have now also another performance with an instrument, a musical instrument. And I explained a bit before. Jonathan was actually producer of the series last year, and now we switched to Reus. He's going to do a performance about the banjo, the future past of banjo, but also in exploring what does it mean a digital performance. He's such a multidisciplinary artist. You're gonna love it. So enjoy and just share with me your concerns, questions, doubts, comments, private requests, and I'll see you soon.
Boko Munyedi Gra. Boko Munyedi Gra. I can't tap the place. Boko Munyedi Gra.
Okay, thanks, Timo, for putting us live again. Welcome back, and welcome, Jonathan, in the Q and A room. Thanks a lot for the performance. It was really great. So
Thank
nice
you,
to
Rafa.
see. Yeah, so nice to see your music practices colliding in this and crossovering in this performance. It's
Yeah,
really cool.
definitely. Yeah, it was nice to have the opportunity to bring some of these things together.
Yeah, maybe we can talk a bit to the audience. How did you came up with this idea of colliding a banjo into live coding, into the live coding scene?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I played the banjo 10 years or so ago when I was in the United States, and actually then is when I was learning how to make electronic music, and I was already then kind of thinking about how to combine like the sort of folk music scene that I was part of in Florida with this kind of like electronic music. Um, so it's always been something I've been very interested in. But when I came to the Netherlands, I sort of sold all of my acoustic instruments.
Oh no!
Well, I really wanted. I came to the Netherlands because I was coming to a place called Stein, which was like a very interesting kind of research laboratory for electronic music, and I was really trying to make new electronic instruments. And then it's only been the last maybe 2 years or so that I've really started becoming interested in acoustic instruments again. And so I started revisiting the banjo. Yeah, and part of that is I guess, also coming back to it with a kind of more critical, broader worldview that I've gotten since coming to the Netherlands.
It is so beautiful that because of that, you started to be interested in so many themes and discussions that are related to banjo,
Mm.
about his past, about diversity, about colonization,
Mm.
and this we saw a lot in your previous performances, also in your project with the forecast platform.
Mm.
But also so beautiful to just see how musically everything it's colliding in your practice. I hear lo-fi hip hop. I saw Tim Horvath typing something like mournful sounds of a banjo, and sometimes it's also percussive sounds. It's so nice to see all these references.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's so much in every instrument that we kind of take for granted, you know, and just a bit of research starts to open up all of these creative potentials that maybe are in the instrument or are in the history of the instrument and can then be kind of reimagined or serve as a point of inspiration. Like for me, I'm very interested in the connection between the banjo and drums. Because there's kind of many connections in different points in history through the banjo and drums. The modern banjo, you know, like this thing literally has a snare drum on it.
yeah,
It's because this design of the banjo was actually created by a drum maker in the United States.
cool.
But then even before that, I mean, this instrument is more like a West African instrument or even like a North African instrument. Some people see like a Comanche in it, you know, like a Turkish instrument. Um, but this structure is also, you know, essentially a drum. So it's interesting that the banjo is just part of a big family of instruments that are essentially one creative combination or another of strings and drums.
That is so beautiful. The
Uh,
part of idiomatism in music that you just copy and paste, but you also see in kitchen, like when you are cooking, that you are trying to mix things, and yeah, and there's nothing wrong about it. It's so really cool. This is also related to one question that's dropped here in the backstage of this concert with me and Timo Hochland, and we were actually seeing your code and checking, oh, but how he's making this this aspers and making a line. So Timo said you created a language, a live
yeah.
coding language. How is it this combination with now your music practice, playing banjo in this live coding language?
Yeah. I mean, I started working on this language a long time ago because I wanted to do kind of live coding storytelling. And I wanted a language that I could use to work with text, so it could like work with sound and text interchangeably and like put these patterns together. Like most live coding languages have some kind of pattern system. And I wanted a pattern system that I could like drop things into it, and they could be text or they could be sound, and it could just create changes in text, but also changes in sound. But then the more I use this, and then the more I tried to use it with music, the more I got kind of, I struggled a bit because it's something I really want to experiment with, is how to make a live coding language that allows you to also play acoustic instruments. So something that I've found works really well in terms of that combination is using at Stein there was a piece of software called Lisa way back in
Oh
the
yeah,
day
from the teacher
from Frank
Frank.
Baldet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a really amazing piece of software in its time. And essentially what it was one gigantic audio buffer that you could record sound to of like minutes long. And you could live record into it, or you could have pre-recorded stuff in it. And the whole thing of the software was creating patterns for playing back parts of that buffer.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of like, I guess what you would call like a buffer shuffler today, if you were like had a Ableton Live plugin or something like that. But it was much more powerful than that. Like it was much more flexible. You could control it with MIDI and OSC and all this kind of stuff. But what I always really loved about Lisa was when you had a pattern going, and it could be a really complex pattern, and you just feed audio into the buffer in real time, you get this like amazing evolving musical texture. And I was starting to think about like, okay, how do I kind of work my live coding language into something like that? So I have this idea of like live patterns, which are patterns that are referencing audio that is kind of not recorded yet. And that's kind of one of the fundamental things in this language that I'm working with.
It is so funny because you also like when we were talking about this performance previously, you said I'm gonna reinvent a bit to talk about the past and the present of banjo. And live coding, it's also involving a lot of past, like it's recording and using samples that we already made it. And it's so funny that you can rethink, like I mean, I already talk about the future in live coding as well. If you compare that buffers are part of past, it's really nice. And
Thanks.
I am not sure like if there's some questions. I saw a lot of messages of a lot of people congratulating you.
Oh, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, so
That's very
nice.
sweet. I
A lot
can't see the
of
YouTube
Mariah is here,
stream.
Joana as well, and some people from America, from your
Wow.
homeland. And
Okay.
yeah, it's so nice.
They're like following the sound of the banjo.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they are proud of it. It's so nice to see the reinvention of an instrument. Well, I will guide to the next performance of tonight. And I would like to thank you, Jonathan, for this performance,
Thank
for
you,
your
Rafa.
presence, and also for this series because actually you were the guy that pushed it and make it happen. So
Well, I'm really glad that you took it over and that you're keeping the torch going.
yeah, of course, we are community.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so I will lead us now to the last performance. Craig is ready. He's here with me in the backstage. Like, I want to perform right now, please. Uh, he has been performing for, I think, producing this piece for this whole semester now. It's actually a new piece, and I think we can talk more about it in later on. But there will be an invited performer that is somehow part of the audience. It should be an engaged piece. But I'm not gonna talk further. We're gonna watch. This is very exciting, very interesting, and I'll leave you to Craig's artwork. See you soon, guys. thanks everyone, and thanks especially to Craig and Sebastian, who were performing this really nice piece, beat shifting. I have so many questions, and I think you are also with so many thoughts. How are you feeling after this performance? It's such a big different time zone, and how
Yeah.
have you been rehearsing?
Yeah. Well,
How was this experience?
it's been exciting rehearsing this because it's the very fresh software that only just started to work, and of course it's not finished. So yeah, it's been fun. It was very exciting for the first time hearing notes from across the network that I didn't play. So that was really cool.
Do you feel afraid of it? Do you are you like just anxious that who is there? Who is communicating with me?
No, what I am a little bit afraid of is I know who's there. I'm a little afraid of will they get disconnected
Yeah.
because reestablishing the connection is not so fast. It takes like a whole minute to do it usually. But yeah, for the most part, it's fine. The basic idea of the software is it's a distributed metronome and a distributed score. So there's a beat, and this server is putting out sort of a pulse, and each performer has to render that pulse locally on their own MIDI equipment so they can hear it. But then once they can hear it, they can play along with it on another MIDI instrument. And the software is a web app, which every time you play a note, it calculates the difference, the offset in microseconds between the note you played and the most recent metronome click that you received at your location. And so it has so it's sending these little microsecond offsets back to the server, and then scheduling notes in this shared score to everyone with the same microsecond offsets from some other beat in the future. So you end up hearing everyone playing with the same timing they had when they played from their location, but it's just shifted to a different beat
So nice.
when you hear it. So you can play together in a rhythm, but any simultaneous events that happen are by chance.
That's so crazy, but this is just sounds. What about the image? Is you had a time to experiment with like crossing the image of each other somehow, like
I
video,
haven't
for example?
Oh, I haven't done that yet, but that would be very interesting to do. I want to. Right now, this all just works with MIDI, so you can send controller events, to control lights and things, but it's all control events, and node on, node off, that sort of thing. But I would like to get it working with WebRTC, so that instead of distributing delayed MIDI events, I could distribute delayed video frames or audio frames, so that you could participate, just with your voice, for example. Also, Caffeine, the platform in which I wrote this, has support for Hydra. So it would be really fun to use events to control Hydra modifications to video.
Well, maybe
stuff like that.
that's the first powerful for collab with your audience today, which was Sebastian. How was it for you, Sebastian, to perform with with Craig?
Well, it was really nice actually. I had the same feeling when we got this thing working earlier, and yeah, it's really fun because you basically, of course, we're both hearing different things because I'm playing his interface and he's playing mine, and I think that's a lot of fun, and it's a very it's a beautiful creative environment. The sensation is really great that you're playing with someone, but you don't really. It's pure improvisation because you cannot really sort of expect a certain signature or anything of the kind, but you will be synchronized on on a certain way that is also going to be different for Craig and for me. So that's why we were talking on, well, let's record this so we can then sort of see how actually both ends when put together what happens. So like Craig said, this, you know, there's like so much we also wanted to do to explore this. I also wanted to send Craig MIDI events that were actually I converted an analog instrument here to MIDI and then send him the MIDI events. So, but then there was a little bit extra complication on the routing, and so we try to keep it simple and make it work, because, like he mentioned earlier, the network event communication was sort of the challenge here. And for the moment, this is where the emphasis was. But there's like, so, well, I didn't know about this Hydra feature that he's talking about now. So you can imagine it's like,
You're like, ooh, la la.
Yeah, lots of
exactly.
potential. Lots of potential, but for now it's just node on, node off. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Very
It's
nice.
so nice that because this was actually the biggest challenge of our times nowadays, to deal with delay. Everyone wants to do concerts online nowadays, or try to make a version out of concerts that were already planned in their programmers and the programs.
Yeah.
And it was so nice that you confronted the question: how can I solve that? Is this a problem? Is this a problem to interact with someone?
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, this synchronization, it lets you build up a groove, you know, sort of a mood, and the delays, you know, the system works by making the delays bigger to be musically relevant quantities, but they're still not that long. They're no longer than a measure, for example. So that's still short enough that you can communicate about musical structure with your performers. So there's still a means to communicate, you know, I'm going to play for a while, and then when you don't hear me play for a few measures, then, you know, you can take a solo or something. And then, you know, if you have like another performer who is just laying a backing rhythm, you know, then, you know, that's just fine. All they need to do is just feel the rhythm. And since you have this metronome that's locked in, it's doable. Yeah.
That's so cool. Like that you have to trust in the rhythm, and then just let the internet does it.
Yeah. So today we did not have a dedicated rhythm player. So what I was doing was I had this code up on the screen for some of my notes. They would be repeated back to me just on a different instrument. I was playing them originally on a piano, and then most of the notes get played back to me on a marimba, just so you can see that they are basically the same notes being reflected back to me. But randomly, some of those notes would be played on percussion instruments instead. And I was playing to the beat. So you could get an idea of the notes were copies of the ones I was playing, but they were also being reflected in the rhythm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's really like a playground for generating new performances relating.
Yeah.
Percussion players.
Yeah.
Really nice. Well, thanks a lot, guys, for that. And
yeah, thank you.
So nice to see your collab as well.
Yeah, very nice. I'm sure this room to do a lot more here, Craig. Like, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think there's a potential for very large performances with many people playing and listening.
Yes, for sure. John is asking you, can you explain how the system works? But actually, you already explained, or?
Well, I sort of explained the theory of it, but how the replication actually happens is by using a JavaScript framework called Croquet that's being done by some friends of mine as a startup. It's at croquet.io. And that's a service that exists only to be a reflector of things that you send to it. So there's sort of an analogy with another JavaScript framework called Anime.js that will animate the value of some JavaScript variable between two things over a period of time, and it can animate anything. And similar to that, this Croquet service can synchronize and replicate any JavaScript variable. So I have a score object, and I can schedule MIDI events into it. And as soon as I do that, then everyone who is connected to the session has their own copy of the score. And when I put a note into it, an event into it, then everyone's copy also gets that event put into it. And so anyway, Croquet can keep all of our copies replicated, synchronized up to 60 times a second. So replicate data that is being rendered as an animation on the screen. So I'm also using it for 3D, and in fact, I have a 3D visualization of what is happening in the beat shifting algorithm that I would like to make part of the next performance.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, that's sort of the thing that makes it work, is this replication service. Yeah, and then locally, it's up to each person to notice the changes in their replicated object. So like it's up to each person's web browser in this case to notice that a note event was added to the score and to schedule it for being played locally. So everything gets scheduled for in the future, usually several beats in the future. So it doesn't need to replicate as 60 times a second. It could replicate, twice a second, and that would still be fast enough. So this is a way of overcoming the latency problem using a pretty clever idea, but it's not very performance intensive. You can use it with very low-powered machines.
You need a whole team to start a startup about it.
Yeah, I think beat shifting is a really fun thing to do.
Yes.
It could be a service, yeah.
Yes, for sure. There's so much room to develop this project. Well, I think this is actually the end of our concert. That's really sad. But I think, everyone needs to stretch and start to sleep probably.
Yeah.
Some people in Brazil, probably they're just tired. It's time for a coffee. Or in America. But I wish you all from the whole world, well, thank you so much, first of all, and I wish you all a very nice end of the day. It was great to share all these great artworks and artists around the world. Everyone is part of the community of Netherlands Coding Live, and this is part of a series of concerts that we are taking every year now. This is already the second year. And this whole concert is supported by a lot of organizations around in Hague, the city that the Instrument Inventors is located, but especially Instrument Inventors initiative. So thanks everyone for making this possible. Mariah, Mateo, Loudon, also everyone actually, in Timo especially, that is pulling out and pulling in the curtains of our concert. And I think I didn't forget anyone, but of course the audience, because without the audience, poetry wouldn't even begin. This is actually the end of a poetry from Rosario Castellanos about that poetry wouldn't exist if it wouldn't be the audience. So I hope you had nice reflections about what could what could be an interactive performance using digital and live coding practices. And I think that's all for tonight. And I hope you had all great time. And thanks again, Craig, Sebastian, Alice, Chris, Joana, Renick, and Jonathan. And Timo.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.